Happy Pentecost, everybody, and Tony here with a review of Karl Maria von Weber's Der Freischütz, which was shown at the Staatsoper im Schiller Theater. The conductor was Alexander Sadi. The production was done by Michael Thalheimer. The set design was done by Olaf Altmann. The costumes were done by Katrin Lea Tag. The lights were handled by Olaf Frese. The chorus master was Martin Wright. And the dramaturgy was handled by Katrina Winkler. Now, Der Freischütz is one of von Weber's most popular operas of all time, as it has been performed internationally, mostly throughout a lot of the European opera houses. This opera is just as famous as Oriente and Oberon. In fact, I was first introduced to von Weber's music ever since I was 14 years old, where I listened to the overture to Oberon. And from there, I have learned to appreciate von Weber's music because of its beauty, its charisma, and its overall charm. And even though my knowledge of Der Freischütz is mainly limited to its arias like Agathes, Wie nahte mir der Schlummer, which then leads to Leise, leise, fromme Weise, and her lullaby Und ob die Wolke, Entchens kommt ein schlanker Bursch gegangen, and einst träume mir, and Maxes durch die Wälder, durch die Auen, and Kaspars Schweig, damit ihr nicht ihn warnst. And just a lot of really wonderful melodies, especially that of the overture. Not to mention, just like a lot of the previous operas by Mozart and Beethoven, this opera is also a Singspiel, which also comes in the form of the only speaking character of this opera, the forest demon Samiel, whereas everybody else has singing parts. With that said, let's get on to what I thought about the production, costumes, singing, conducting, and chorus. Now, traditionally, a lot of productions of Der Freischütz would usually set the opera in something that has a lot of forests, castles, cottages, huts, and just a lot of scenery and a lot of beautiful costumes here and there. This production is quite dark and haunting and very eerie, but I think it actually really does the score justice, as it is a supernatural fairy tale of romance, of demonic deeds, and just a lot of supernatural elements in general coming into play in this very wonderful romantic drama. The opera begins as we see Samiel on the stage, and he basically is making his presence known in the stage as this forest spirit who guards the forest but is neither good nor evil. He's just sort of in the middle, but some of his actions sort of draw to the side of evil. And then throughout the opera, what we see is a huge dark forest, and at times it plays itself almost like a cave, as if though that this is the realm of the twilight, and what we see is a tunnel that basically leads to the light, which is probably that of the normal world. But in this particular opera, it basically is showing us the realm of the supernatural, where everything comes into play, whether it be demons, spirits, and a lot of mythical creatures really coming into play within this opera, which really does make this opera have a very dark edge to it, but something very exciting, albeit almost like the tales of the Brothers Grimm and even a lot of the dark fairy tales that we've been listening to ever since we were children, that frighten us, that intrigue us, and that very much leaves us so excited for what's going to happen to our main heroes, what's going to happen to everyone in the entire story. And I definitely felt like the production design, though quite dark, really lives up to the eeriness of the entire opera. And the costumes were absolutely gorgeous. I really like Samia's costume, in which he almost looks like that of a shaman with his headdress, and he's shirtless and he has black pants. Agatha looks really lovely with her pink dress, and then with her wedding scene, she looks really lovely in her bridal gown. Enshin is in yellow, and we even have a lot of the hunters wearing the traditional garb of the 18th to 19th century. So overall, I'm not going to mince words about the production. The production and costumes really do live up to the dark fairy tale nature of the entire opera, though a little bit more scenery and a little bit more variety could have been useful, but as it is, it's still very solid on its own rights, as if to really convey the dark fairy tales that really surround the opera and basically combine a lot of the mythology and the mysticism that really makes this opera shine in its own special way. And now we get to the singing, starting off with our main heroines. With Agatha, we have the ever so wonderful Dorothea Röschmann. Now, with Agatha, she really needs a full lyric soprano who can be able to not only sing lyrically, but also sing dramatically as well. What I do notice about a lot of the sopranos who sing Agatha is that, much like her successors, the likes of Elisabeth from Tannhäuser, Elsa from Lohengrin, and Eva from Der Meistersinger von Nürnberg, is that a lot of the sopranos have started off with singing Mozart via the Countess Almaviva, Donna Anna, Donna Elvira from Don Giovanni, Fiordaligi or Dorabella from Così fan tutte, and to some extent Vitalia from La Clemenza di Tito, and Elettra from Idomeneo, before transitioning to a lot of the more spinto-y roles, that of Desdemona from Otello, Elisabetta de Valois from Don Carlo, Alice Ford from Falstaff, and even the likes of Christine Storch from Intermezzo and Countess Madeleine from Capriccio. Famous Agathas include the likes of Elisabeth Grümmer, Sena Jurinac, Christine Brewer, Zoila Izokowski, Carita Matila, Arlene Saunders, Gundula Janowitz, and many, many other sopranos who have specialized in the works of Mozart, Verdi, Strauss, and many, many other Germanic composers. And I thought that with Dorothea Röschmann as Agatha, she totally sang and acted her heart out in this role. Her voice poured out with such emotion, such strength, and such beauty that I was practically immersed. And I have been seeing this soprano for many, many, many times. She has shown and continues to show a sense of beauty, a sense of urgency, and a sense of overall commitment to her art. There were times I seemed to notice that, yes, she did struggle with the high B after her aria Leise, Leise, fromme Weise, but despite that, she really sang her role very well, paying close attention to a lot of the subtleties of her characters, and really being a charismatic and very much an emotional performer, really giving her all into this role. She was absolutely fascinating as Agatha, and still continues to be a very fascinating performer. She continues to really give it her all in such a role like this, and has very much stood as her own Agatha, with the likes of Elisabeth Grümmer, Sena Jurinac, and many, many other great Agathas of the past. She totally holds up with them, and she is definitely a very fine performer, and she continues to really give a lot of effort and a lot of her artistry into this very iconic heroine. And then seeing the role of her foil slash cousin slash gal pal Enshin, we have the equally wonderful Evelyn Novak. Now, unlike Agatha, Enshin needs a lighter voice who can be able to sing youthfully, softly, and have that sense of youthfulness and spark to this character. She basically needs to have the acting skills of a cherubino, yet have the voice of a Circonstance de Saint-Denis, Agnol from Péléas et Mélisande, and basically have a lot of the lyrical lines of that of Eudoxie from La Juive or Michaela from Carmen. And I thought that with Evelyn Novak as Ensign, what more can I say about her? She is a very honest performer, and she has a very youthful countenance to really make her role shine. And there has been no shortage of light lyric sopranos who have specialized as Ensign, the likes of Emmy Luz, Lisa Otto, Rita Streich, Edith Mattes, Helen Donath, Eva Lind, Christina Schäfer, and many other light lyric sopranos who have specialized in a lot of the Mozart, Handel, and a lot of the Baroque works, and even a lot of the Richard Strauss works, whether they be coloratura sopranos, light lyric sopranos, and to some extent, full lyric mezzos who also graduated to the role of Agathe. And I thought that with Evelyn Novak, like I said before, she was absolutely fabulous. Now, she's not like a lot of the traditional Ensigns in which the voice would usually be expected to be thinner, lighter, and sort of more youthful. Her voice really shone like a young woman's, and her voice had a fuller timbre compared to a lot of the traditional Ensigns. Her voice is opulent, creamy, rich, and is very silvery and very homogeneous throughout all the registers. And she has a very darling stage presence, just like a lot of the Ensigns of the past. She continues to be a very strong performer. She continues to really give a lot of charisma and a lot of energy to each of her performances. And her performance as Ensign was an absolutely wonderful and gorgeous portrayal of the sidekick to Agathe. And not to mention, I really love the chemistry between her and Dorothea Röschmann's Agathe. You really do feel like they're sort of like cousins, but they almost go beyond cousins. They almost feel like sisters to each other. And I really felt that those two were an absolute joy to see on stage. And then we move on to the main hero, Max, sung by the very wonderful Austrian Heldentenor, Andreas Schager. Now, what we have in Max is that a lot of full lyric tenors, spinto tenors, and Heldentenors have all flocked to sing this heroic role. Not only is this role quite a dramatic sing, but he also has to sing lyrically as well. He has to show a great amount of versatility, youthfulness, and a sense of nobility, especially evidenced in his singing. Any singer who has sung a lot of the Wagnerian works, yet also a lot of the Strauss works, and even Florestan from Beethoven's Fidelio have all flocked to sing this wonderfully heroic character. And I thought that with Andreas Schager, I thought that he had the right voice for a character like this. It's opulent, it's scintillating, it rings through the high notes, and his stage presence is just so enthralling. But more than anything, it's his voice that sells it for me. It rings throughout the orchestra. It has that ping, it has the squealo. It has that homogeneousness that I love in any Heldentenor. He definitely has a very youthful yet elegant stage presence. He really sang wonderfully. I loved his involving portrayal. I loved how he managed to really sing his heart out in this role and really act his heart out as well. He was a complete performer, making sure to add a lot of drama and a lot of charisma and flair to this character, and really making us involved in the perils that Max has to go through in order to win Agatha's heart. Not to mention the trio between him, Reuschmann, and Novak was just so well done. His Heldentenor voice combines well with Reuschmann's full lyric soprano voice and Novak's full lyric soprano voice as well. Their voices blended so well that I was practically entranced throughout the entire evening. And his performance as Max was absolutely amazing and very, very thrilling. Then we have the role of the main villain, Kaspar, sung by the wonderful German basso Tobias Schabel. The role of Kaspar has attracted a lot of Heldenbaritones, bass baritones, and basso cantantes. This role is very famous for the wide tessitura that he has. He sings a lot of low notes, and he has to make sure that his middle notes are strong, and there are times that he does sing a few high notes here and there. This role not only needs a very, very good singer, but also a very capable actor as well. I like to say that this role combines the low notes of a Filippo from Don Carlo, or even the likes of Boris Godunov, and has the high notes of an Escamillo or Scarpia. This role is just as coveted as Wotan, the Dutchman, Hans Sachs, Klingsor, Amfortas, Escamillo, Scarpia, and even the likes of Philip II and the King of Egypt from Aida. What we have in Tobias Schabel as Kaspar was a menacing stage presence and a voice that was very homogeneous throughout all the registers. There has been no doubt that a lot of singers have specialized as Kaspar, from the Helden baritone voice of Ekkehard Blaschiha to the more basso profondo voice of Gottlob Frick and the basso cantante voice of Carl Christian Kohn. And it is one of the most rewarding sings for any bass baritone out there. And I thought that with Tobias Schabel, he brings in the right amount of bite, menace, and charm through this character. He has a certain dark charisma that he brings out, and it really pours through every single pore. His performance radiates with a dark charisma, and it's helped with his homogeneous bass baritone voice that is capable of hitting not only the low notes, but also that of some of the high notes as well, as he sings a good deal of Fs and F sharps. And he did very wonderfully. He was able to bring this type of beauty to this role and a certain virility to this role that I was practically immersed, and I was constantly on the edge of my seat every time this gentleman was on stage. It was an absolute thrill. Then we have the role of Kuno, Agatha's father, sung by the veteran German basso profondo Victor von Hallem. This role is very thankless for any basso cantante or basso profondo. Usually, any singer of Kuno would usually specialize in the likes of Veit Pogner, Daland, Hans Sachs, any of the Wagnerian kings or the Verdi kings or high priests, or even a lot of the basso gentleman roles, and even the likes of Hunding from Die Walküre, Gonemans, and even Hagen from Götterdämmerung. There has been no shortage of bassos who have also sang this rather thankless role, yet have also managed to find something very interesting in this character role. And I thought that with Victor von Hallem, despite his really old age, basically being in his late 70s, as he's also been singing throughout a long period of time, he does show a certain elegance, a certain virility, and a certain nobility on stage. His voice is round, it's rich, it's cavernous. It is what I love in any basso profondo, and his stage presence is totally enthralling. I was immersed in his performance. This role is extremely thankless to a lot of bassos, but he managed to pull it off well with a great amount of charisma, a great amount of power and authority, and also a great amount of virility that I was practically enthralled throughout the evening. And then we have the role of the hermit who appears in the final act of the opera, sung by Jan Martinik. This role is one of the great character parts for any basso profondo, as he really needs a deep, cavernous voice to really bring out the best in this character role. Any basso profondo who has sung the likes of the Commendatore, Osmin, Sarastro, the Grand Inquisitor, Sparafucile, Ramphis, Fiesco, Fafner, Titurel, Landgraf Hermann, König Marke, Veit Pogner, Daland, and many, many other basso parts that usually specialize in a lot of the old kings and a lot of the old men in general have all flocked to sing this character part. And I thought that with Jan Martinik, he has a very engaging stage presence. His voice is round and rich and virile, and he managed to make the best out of this very, very thankless character role. And then we have the role of Prince Ottokar, sung by Roman Trekel. The role of Prince Ottokar is also very thankless, as he also needs a good cavalier baritone to really bring out the best out of this character. Any baritone who has sung the likes of Conte di Luna from Trovatore, Conte Almaviva from Le Nozze di Figaro, the title role of Don Giovanni, and to some extent Mazzetto from Don Giovanni, Guglielmo from Così fan tutte, Papageno from Zauberflöte, and many of the roles of the lyric baritone repertoire have all flocked to sing this rather thankless role, and did it pretty well with the finest technique that they could ever offer. And with Roman Trekel, he has a very virile voice, and one that is totally fine throughout all the registers. He sings with masculinity, and he sings with charm and beauty, and he really made the best out of this character role. Then we have the role of the young peasant, Kilian, sung by Timothy Sharp. This role can either be sung by a character baritone or a character tenor. Mostly, I do prefer a character baritone singing this role, mostly because I like a little bit more virility in such a character role like this. And I thought that with Timothy Sharp, he does a very fine job singing the role of Kilian, giving him his brash nature, giving him his machismo, and he really does a fine job with his very fine timbre and his plush lyric baritone voice. And then we have the speaking role of Samuel, done by Peter Moltzen, who injects a lot of charisma. He injects a lot of his ambivalence to this character and makes him really enjoyable. And we also have the role of the bridesmaids, sung by the chorus girls, Verena Allertz, Katharina Bolding, Regina Emersleben-Motz, Constanza Löwe, and Claudia Tuch, who sing very, very elegantly. And I thought that they looked absolutely gorgeous in their really cute dresses. So overall, I am more than impressed by the singing. Everyone did fabulously, but special kudos really has to go to Dorothea Röschmann, Evelyn Novak, Andrea Schager, Tobias Schabel, Jan Martinik, Victor van Hallem, Roman Trekel, and Timothy Sharp for really giving out such outstanding vocal performances. And also huge shout out to Peter Moltzen, who does a very fine job giving such a charismatic performance as Samuel. And then we have the conducting done by Maestro Alexander Saudi, which is so well done, paying close attention to the text and making sure that everyone goes together. And the chorus of the Staatsoper im Schiller Theater, what more can I say about them? They did excellently. So overall, I have to say that what really made this production wonderful in its own special way was the singers. Everybody gave it their all. From the main singers to the chorus, they just basically gave it their all and made this evening worthwhile. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in on Friday while I'll be reviewing Donizetti's L'Elisir d'Amore, starring Enea Scala as Nemorino. So until then, good night, everybody. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a very wonderful Pentecoste.